All right. So, what did y'all think about that? I got to think about my review on this, y'all. So, hang on, is chat still active? Yeah. So, what did y'all think of that? So, for me, myself, and I was playing this game. I had to think of all aspects of it, including the technical stuff. Now, I'm not going to rate this game as bad due to the memory leak. I know from tech support wise that if they have the right team, they can fix that. It's a new release. It's probably actually because of the fact of me alt tabbing. Some people ain't gonna notice it because they're not alt tabbing. I'm a streamer. I go through 3 different monitors at the same time, and I click back and forth between different apps. So yeah, that can be an issue. So we found out how to cause the memory leak multiple times, and I will properly report it. Now, the other thing on that is let's delete that for a second from our memory. All right, forget about that part. There were some parts in the game that if you wanted to just play the missions, the story itself. So there's more to this to judge and all that stuff. You said you're seeing a huge improvement here from how they made games based on movies. This is one pretty solid. Yes, but you got to watch that because when they do that, sometimes they put too much movie into it. You know what I mean? It's where at the end, it was like a little fight scene and then a 20-minute video. A little fight scene and then a 20-minute video. For that, there's a there's a thing in between there for video games and like FMV movies or FMV games and movie interactive games and stuff like that, where what they do is so that you're still having to engage in there during those videos. There'll be times where you have to randomly press a button, like you have to randomly press E or press left or right or something to dodge, where while it's doing the scene, and that brings you more into it. Yes, you're still going to sit there and watch, but you really want to. But you chose to play a game, not just watch a movie. But we all like that combination of the movie game thing, especially. I like the interactive movie ones where you control the ending, where there's then multiple endings and all that stuff. So yeah, it's. I think at the end it was just way too much on the movie stuff. Now, Bros says, "Oh yeah, I'm 100% with you. There were a lot of those movie-like cutscenes." And that's the thing, though. This is a movie. This is like a movie from that part. They're bringing the movie part in, but you gotta be able to blend it in properly with the game portion as well. Now, I will tell you that I did have a good laugh of getting the whole Matrix vibes of Neo versus Agent what's his face, Agent Smith. I sensed that totally, and I swear that's what they were aiming for that when they said the karate or whatever like that, or how they said karate or whatever. I mean, I really got the whole Agent Smith with the storm and rain and everything for that final fight scene from the third Matrix. I That's what I felt the whole when I first got into that battle. That's what I felt, and then the boss fight. Once you realize what's going on, you notice that if you did the dodging with spacebar backwards enough, you have to really do it backwards enough for the kick because even though the kick don't touch you, it still does damage to you. But if you dodge to the right and then run backwards away from him, when he uses that whip to pull you in, it actually doesn't do much damage to you. So what it does is it pulls back in, and then you can do a 3-hit combo, but don't waste for the second 3-hit combo. Those 3 bars of stamina you need at that point, you have at that point, you then have to use to dodge again. So I noticed that's the real good combo for it. If you do a 3-hit combo where you normally hit at least the third punch in there, the way that he dodges, and then you just keep backing up or moving to the side when he does that kick and then run backwards to where then he takes the whip out to pull you in again. That turned out to be a great combo against him. As long as you have patience for it, it will go through. And it went through faster actually than I thought it would. And then you had the part where with the on the rope and everything and going back and forth with it from there. That seemed to be a whole nother timing thing as well. Now, forget the boss scene for a moment, okay? The rest of the game. So I had this on easy and I had problems getting past some of the enemies, okay? I'm not saying it's too hard or anything like that. I'm not saying that. But I've had issues where I was getting stuck on items, stuck on objects. I'm not telling the dev to get it to where get it to where we can walk through objects or anything like that. Don't want that at all. I'm not saying to get rid of all the objects. It's just gotta try to make it a little bit smoother on that part because I was getting stuck in between like chairs and desks. Not like the character stuck as without anything else involved, just those 2 items and then stuck. I mean, I then get boxed in with the enemy, so I can't move past the enemy, and then I can't move past those chairs, and I just get boxed in from that part. Or I'm trying to walk around things and I just stumble into the items, and then it just sort of gets stuck up along it, and then I got to break off and go the other way. So there was some mechanics in that was a little frustrating. Um, let's see what else. That's a common issue with Bethesda games. I mean, that's a common issue in a lot of games as well. Some do better than others on that. I do have to say though, I did enjoy the game. I just don't think I'm going to give it a 20. Not 20. 20 is how many hours we just spent playing it. I don't think I'm gonna give it a 10 though. Not 100 or anything like that. Um, if you want to play just the story mode, I mean just the main story and not go to all the extra stuff like we did, I think you start to run into problems of getting money for your items. So like that one, I spent 3 extra hours trying to find the money to get to that portion. Now, when I've looked through walkthroughs of how to get that the gold from that one safe, how to get the code for it, it showed that you just took out one of the enemies right there in that main room. Now I took out the enemies in that whole building and I couldn't find a ticket on them. So the code itself came up on one of the enemies. I couldn't find that. So I actually then had to just look it up and put the code in there. I'll admit to that. The number code for the safe because I could not find the safe code anywhere. No matter how many times I played that and tried taking out the agents, not the agents, the enemies, I looked through and I just could not find that ticket with the number on it. According to 2 or 3 different playthroughs I looked through just for that part. I didn't look at anything else because I didn't do any spoilers. I looked just for that one part, and they all found it off of another body. And each one, the body was right there in that main room. Something glitched on my side. So that automatically brings it down from 10 to somewhere between 9 and 10. Then with the other aspects of it and how you sort of get lost in concentration wise on certain things, that also brings it down some. But the fact that I had to move for 3 hours to try to get the money to go for the next main level, I had to go out of my way. I didn't. There wasn't anything obvious of showing where I could make money otherwise for it. I know I could have done the other game type from what it sounds like. There was some type of gambling thing or so forth that you can use to also make the money. It was easy to make the money going into one of the side missions once we managed to get the code to do so, but again, we had to use a workaround for that and just put the code in ourselves. Um, so I think they should make it a little easier or cheaper to be able to buy that one item. That one was when I needed to buy the breathing mask for the swimming part. I think it was just too expensive of getting from that part if I just want to do the main story. Uh, so there was a few other parts of that where it was getting stuck a little bit. It did feel like at the boss, at the final boss, like I needed to kick him off the ship, but apparently I don't know if that's not possible or if if it's not intended. Ugh, excuse me. But you saw we beat him regular on that part as well. So I'm trying to think of what else because we've been streaming this for 20 hours now. So I'm trying to think of what else that I noted down prior or earlier in the game. There's some things to the game that I didn't like, and I think it's more because so is this listed down as Disney? What's the publisher and everything listed as? Let me look. It says no, it just says Bethesda. It doesn't say anything else. But Disney owns the licensing of it, don't they? You said maybe is because the difficulty, but some puzzles easily could be done just going through traps without any major issues. Yeah, so I was on the easiest difficulty. So I didn't know if that caused a glitch in receiving some of the codes or what. But I'm not saying the game's bad. I really did enjoy it, but I got to think of like every other game out there when I do the score on it of what I would give it. I would give it a 7 if I judged it based on how many times it was crashing, but because of my technical knowledge, I know that it'll get fixed eventually. I've been on the other side of this. Well, software side, not gaming software side, but yeah, I've been on similar sides of this and I know how rollouts go and stuff like that. Excuse me. So I think I'm going to be giving this more of an 8 out of 10. I think I feel good with an 8 out of 10. Now remember, anything 6 and higher is good and recommended. Anything 5 and lower is bad and no go. 6, so 6 is more like uh, you liked the game to an extent, but there was just too many bugs in it and too many faults and so forth with it. 7 is where you liked the story of the game and everything else, even with the bugs that you had along the way. And then 8 is a definitely above average game from that part. Then you got your 9 and your 10. 10 is just perfect. There's no flaws you found anywhere within there. I mean, so yeah, that's how the grading system goes on that. At least from what I've checked with other companies and what I've been going through based on averaging out what the other companies grade as well. So I think I would give this an 8. Let's do a real quick check and see what other companies give this game. Um, Indiana Jones. I see 4.5. All right, so I see 8 out of 10. Let's see. One says a 3.5 out of 5. Another says an 8.5 or 86. Then we have 9 out of 10. A 9 out of 10. Looks like it's going back and forth between 8 and 9.5 ish. 8 and 9 appears to be the main ones that they're putting it out as. So I think my review is right on mark, right on par as far as the 8. But I was also looking for specific things and so forth. So, like I said, I've done the tech support stuff. I've played so many games. I know I've played so many games as a kid and as a teenager and as an adult and everything, competitive and all that stuff. I've checked so many different genres of games as well, and so I know a lot of things to look for, especially when it comes to FPS games or action adventure and rich story games and stuff like that. I love FMV games. uh, I mean, I like all sorts of different types of games, different types of genres, and so forth, based on different times and all that. And so I've done a lot of different comparisons and so forth. I try to keep my personal opinion out of it and just do a review based on all the technical stuff we see, uh, judge the story, the how they tell it from that part, how it reacts with the gameplay combined with that. And like I said, it seemed like they did a little bit too much story at the end wise, and I'm just sitting there twiddling my fingers wanting to do something. So, I mean, they can still fix that now if they just add little things in there every few minutes into the video, where you have to press a button or something. Believe it or not, that would get more attention. That would totally get more attention. Otherwise, a person just walked away to go get their drink or something because they're playing a 20-hour game, and this video is going to let them go take a break. So, yeah. But what would y'all say for this game out of 10? What would y'all give this game out of 10? 1 through 10, what would you vote? I'd say 8 out of 10. With note that there's still some bugs that have to be fixed. The main bug I saw, though, I did get stuck in a roof or two here and there, but I just crouched and I got out of it, so I wasn't worried about that. But the main bug I saw was the you're between an 8 and 9, so 8.5. So you would say an 8.5. I'd say an 8 out of 10. But here's the thing. Now the price. So price wise, yeah, so you would do an 8.5. I'm more for an 8, but that's because I'm really specific at some of the things that I was looking at. Now, the other thing here is price. So we're going to look at the price on Steam right now. Now, please, draw. Don't get me wrong at all, okay? 8 is not bad, okay? 8 is not bad at all. 8 is great. 8 is great. They want 8 to 10. 7 is even good, but 8 to 10 is what you want from that part. Can they get a 9 or 10 in mind? Totally. But they would have to fix the things I mentioned and just make little changes in it. If they made those changes, I would up the grade in a heartbeat. I loved the story. Story wise and everything with it, I was with it all the way. I started dragging because of the at the end when it was just like 20-minute videos, or at least seemed that long, with no interaction whatsoever. So I then we're back to just watching the movie itself. And if I wanted that, I would go watch the movie. But I want to be able to interact with it. I like interactive movie games, but you got to be able to interact with it more. And just even those things that those interactive movie games have, where they press this or press that in time, like like with the Dark Pictures anthology, whenever they have different scenes happen from that part, as soon as you enjoy them, if you're enjoying the movie and you start to sit back and lean back and just watch the clip as it goes through, and then all of a sudden a quick reaction happens and it needs you to press a button right away, and you got to press F or you got to press A or press something like that, that keeps me interacted with the game, and I love that. I think that this game could have done that. It did it once or twice, but not enough. Now, here's another thing. I had this on easy wise. Maybe if I put it up on the other difficulty, maybe it has that option. If they inform me that otherwise, I would switch over and maybe that would be the case. I don't know, because I just only played it as easy. So if it added those other things, that could also be a possibility. I don't have that intel. But yeah, I'm an indie fan. My wife is a whole lot more of an indie fan than I am. She'll watch them all repeatedly. But I did like the whole action game wise of being indie and going through the whole adventure wise with it as well. I did feel a little bit of um, modifying of how people were reacting for the 30s or so forth compared to nowadays, where they would put some of nowadays feeling in there instead of the 30s on this game. But like I said, that's all included in my grade wise of it. But hey, real quick, what's y'all's opinion on the fact that you couldn't shoot the dogs? I mean, you would hit the dogs to stop their attack, but then after that, you couldn't hit them anymore. They then were all friendly and would just sit around like that. I can understand for kids and stuff like that, but I, I think you're then taking the whole thing out of it. It's no longer that movie anymore. Yeah, you don't like animals getting hurt or anything like that, but then it's not real anymore when it comes from that part. If you don't want dogs to get hurt, then don't put the dogs in there. If you didn't want the dogs to get hurt, don't put the dogs in there. They didn't need the dogs. But then when you have it to where after you shoot the dog, there's no blood type thing or so forth, and they just sort of pout and then go lay down or go the other way and don't come back to attack you anymore, and then you can't do any damage to them or anything like that, then it's like, yeah, I know, but that's the thing. It felt like they were enforcing to where there's no animal cruelty or anything like that. Yeah, they are so sensitive on it from that part. I don't like that sensitive crap on there. I don't like that if you're not gonna let us shoot it or anything like it would be in real life or so forth, then just take it out. Even in cartoons, you have it like that. Yeah, it just took you off of it from that part. You started getting out of the feeling wise of it. So I would have strongly said to take the animals out completely of it. If that was your issue, take your animals out of it. It felt like Disney to me. It felt like Disney, like they were trying to send messages and stuff out there. But I only saw two messages on that they tried sending out there. And I'm not going to go down that other subject because that goes several directions, and people have their own opinions on it. I'm not gonna say that, but it's just because some of those things, it's just yeah. I mean, and that's the part I was saying where it didn't feel like the 30s on a few situations on there because you didn't have that in the 30s. I mean, you did, but you didn't. Not the way of how they were expressing things. That's why. So all of that is why I give it an eight. It just feels so. Remember back with the older movies with Indy, they actually did have all those things in there. They actually had everything of how they saw things back then. There was no modifications from the current 2000s or anything like that. It was all back then in that time frame. People just can't seem to do that anymore, and they claim that they don't allow it anymore. I mean, if you're gonna do something based on uh, real stories or based on try to make it seem like a real story. Yes, it's going to be a fantasy thing or so forth, but trying to make it still seem more realistic and so forth. You're going to need to go with how things were back in that time frame, how people responded, how people spoke, how people acted, what was acceptable and what wasn't. It's not saying about how things should be now. It's saying how things were at that time frame. If you don't want to do that, then do nowadays time frame. You know what I mean? I mean, a really good example going off of some of that other topic wise, a really good example is how have you seen some of those old movies where they sing songs, but they sing a song that came out in like in the 90s or the 2000s and the 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 whole thing, the whole theme is like in the 60s or the 50s or something. So they're singing a song that didn't come out for 40 more years in a 1960s to 70s movie. You know what I mean? Or even 50s. It's like it just don't belong there. Know what I mean?